They tell they didn't help, nobody. I go to, like government office, they also, nobody, we working with community, nobody, worry about, this is, this problem is, I remember we have long time ago some, but not like this.
This is bad. And I mean, I see that you're trying to pump some of the water out here. I mean, you've done a good job. We're at 2 feet. It's down from 2 feet for sure. But how much is this going to be setting this church back? How is this going to be affecting your church and your community here?
We must return to normal life, but, this wall, especially where it's wood, I think that they need to maybe replace or fix. I don't know. Door need to fix, because this water, so big pressure destroyed door, and many furniture destroyed in kitchen furniture, and we will see after,
And you've been the father here for 30 years, you said?
31.
31 years. Have you seen this kind of damage here before in your 31 years of being the father here?
No, this first time like this.
Yeah. And you were saying earlier, I want to see if our cameraman can show that the water was coming through, that just this open door here, the water was coming through from the street level. Is that right?
No, the door was closed, but still, between, they make damage, between here, they make damage.
Yeah, that the water was just coming through from the street down into the basement like this, just completely destroying this basement apartment here. So we're going to be with him for now here. We've been seeing actually a lot of this throughout Williamsburg and in Brooklyn. We were talking to the assembly member for this area, and she was saying that there's been a lot of basement apartments, whether it's a church or whether it's people's homes that have been flooding in this area. So we're going to be taking a look at this throughout the evening. So Christina Maurice, I'll send it back to you for now.
All right, Ellie, thank you.
Your heart goes out to folks in that situation.
Yes,
so difficult. Let's get another look at the conditions, the weather conditions right now.
Allie, or excuse me, Lonnie.
I
just finished with Allie.
Allie's one of my faves.
But,
guys.
There was just nowhere for this rain to go because we had 4 days prior of just constant rain.
I love KJ when you're listening to what I've been talking about. That's the whole deal. You're exactly right. Nail on the head. KJ's spot on. The ground is saturated. I also thought she was getting into the fact that there's nowhere for this rain to go because the blocking elements are in our atmosphere. It all comes into play to these big numbers. I mean, big numbers, all right? I've updated them. Georgia was just in getting a new JFK number. Now it's closing in on 9 inches of rain, 8.5. 6.6 in South Slope, Central Park, and New Rochelle coming in at 5.8, almost 6 inches. Great Neck, 6.5 inches of rain. Now, when you look at the rain that's out there right now, look, your eye goes straight to where the bright colors are. This is the heavy stuff, all right? Portions of Fairfield County across the Sound. That line right there is the Nassau-Suffolk County line, right over the Long Island Expressway and offshore now from the Jersey Shore. I think a good chunk of the Jersey Shore, you're done with the worst of this, but let's talk about where it's really coming down heavy. I talk about, the Long Island Expressway, these little flashes of red. This is not a light little rain. This is the tough stuff to drive in, all right? Seaford, you're dealing with it. Hicksville, Greenlawn, pushing towards Smithtown. Now, when I was with you about a half an hour ago, it was centered right over Oyster Bay. So it's made a little shift to the east, but not as much as we'd like to see because this thing can't move, all right? It's being stuck in one place. And when you get down to the Jersey Shore, the heavy stuff is now offshore. And as I said, it's a pretty good looking picture. Actually, you push west in some of our counties like Monmouth and Ocean County, and the skies are actually getting a little bit better looking out there, clearing a bit. So good, there could still be some, but for the most part, the worst is done for the Jersey Shore area. Not possibly done for places on Long Island, maybe into Fairfield, Connecticut. I want you to look at this picture. I'm going to give you an image to put in your head. Think about when you turn on a high-pressure hose and you don't hold it, right? And that hose is just going like this, right? Spraying all over the place. You're trying to grab it, right? Well, this low-pressure system, okay, the remnants of what was Ophelia, would love to be doing that exact same sort of spraying action, but it can't. It can't because it can't spray or move to the west because there's a high pressure system here blocking it. Can't spray or move to the east because there's another high pressure system blocking it. So it continues to spray that water over the same areas. And that's why we still believe there are some folks who could see, on top of those numbers I showed you, the potential to see 2 to 3 inches of rain in that corridor, which I'll try to show you here in just a bit. But when you look at what we have, out there and how this is going to all play out, watch the futurecast, all right? Put it into motion. It's still basically east of New York City. Here we are, 10 p.m. This is a new model run looking a little bit more optimistic. We did see it pivot and come back to the area, and it's showing some of that. Here we go. Here we go. All right, this is going right through the late night hours into early Saturday, and then by 3 p.m., it's now showing some of that rain. Pesky now. It's come back. Let's get it out of here. It looks like it would be after 3 p.m. that you truly would be done with it. So look at these numbers, all right? You look at this and you're seeing, hey, a 0.4 for Greenwich, all right? Focus wherever you see that bright red color. And just a moment ago, we were showing that bright red color over Bridgeport, Connecticut, projecting Bridgeport to see 2.6 inches of additional rainfall. Now we're seeing some of those bigger numbers for Riverhead out to Montauk. And this is what you would expect. You'd expect the model numbers as you're getting closer to the event to fluctuate a little bit. This just shows bigger numbers now east of New York City, but still sizable rainfall on top of enormous, like record-setting numbers out there, an inch or more from Brentwood all the way out towards the east end. You go off to the west, as I talked about, much better picture. You're kind of done with the heavy stuff for the western communities in our area. In terms of what the HER is projecting, here we go. Now we're back on track where they say, hey, no, there's that little flash of red for Bridgeport, Connecticut at 2.6, showing a 1.7 Brentwood. Also, farther west you go, we don't see the big numbers, with the exception, we just see a little flash here, like around Monticello, maybe 1.2, Poughkeepsie at 0.6. Well, that's not this little area right here. That could still be, wherever you see a red, that could be over 2 inches of rainfall additional. I just think we've got a tough night ahead of us. I do believe the worst of it was this morning, but it continues for certain spots out there. Again, a record-setter day in a rainfall event for us, guys. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Lonnie. We'll come back to you in just a bit.
As we continue to wait for the MTA news conference to begin, we're going to check in now with DOT Commissioner Ydanis Rodriguez.
He joins us right now over Zoom. Commissioner, thanks for being with us. Let's start with the big picture, if you can, for the whole region, the whole city. Where are the biggest trouble spots, and what should people look out for tonight?
Well, the most important thing is that we all should learn from this, that climate change is real. Definitely the inches of raining that we got today, it is a reminder that, how vulnerable we are. Thanks, to the leadership of Mayor Eric Adams. He has all the agency from the Office of Emergency Management, our agency DOT, DP, sanitation, coordinating since early in the morning to be sure that after we sent the message yesterday to all New Yorkers to plan for what could be a day such as today we were in action, being sure that we were taking care of all the flooding. Still, as you have said, this is not over. That's why we encourage all New Yorkers to please avoid travel at this time. We are closely monitoring the roadway flooding of our traffic management center that we have together with the NYPD and New York State DOT. So this is about continue doing our part as we all agencies are working together. All the men and women from the Office of Emergency Management, DP, sanitation, DOT, we are on the street to be sure that we are looking in those locations that still there's some flooding happening, to be sure that we continue bringing back, working, doing our part to address all those situations that we have in our streets.
Commissioner, I think there's some sentiment here in the city today that it was the warning at least was a little too late. Why wasn't a warning issued yesterday? Why wasn't a state of emergency issued yesterday so that people could better prepare? What is your reaction to that?
Well, the mayor is clear today, and also the commissioner of Office of Emergency Management, that to declare a emergency is not something that New York City is doing. New York City coordinate at the federal level with the state level to know when a category of declaring emergency must happen. Yesterday, Mayor instructed and our commissioner for Office of Emergency Management, he was in some interviews. He sent a message, we alert in New Yorkers. However, no one predicted the numbers of inches of water that or raining that we got today. This is like the wettest moment that we are dealing for more than 100 years.
Well,
So again,
Commissioner, our meteorologist here giving a
Hey,
very
Nightmare.
short range
Trying to fix
of what was possible.
Nightbot.
So this really was not expected if you were carefully paying attention to the forecast.
well, the city was prepared. Mayor Adams working with Commissioner Sago, Office of Emergency Management, and all the agency, we alert, we send test, MTA also send the whole test to all, everyone. And we feel that, as
Not much,
we
brother. How
woke
about
up to
you?
this morning and having all those inches of raining, especially
And
in an hour from the
not
8 to
yesterday,
9,
but the
it was something
night
that
before or whatever.
the city, no one expected to have those
I
numbers of rain
had
that we had in an hour. The infrastructure that we have is infrastructure that the city be making in major investment on how we have to adopt also to the new challenges that we have. But when it comes to how the city is working, how the
I had
Division of Emergency Management is coordinating with
500 subs,
sanitation, DOT, DP,
500
that
subscribers, I
we've
should
been
say.
doing the work, the men and women are in the field. However, we are still are encouraging all New Yorkers to please
You
avoid
wake
travel
up
at
the
this time.
next
Do
day,
you feel
my
that tonight the city
500
needs
subscribers
assistance
are
from the
gone.
state, the federal governments, and entities?
Well, as you saw, Governor Hochul
I had
and Mayor
500
Adams this
subs there
morning,
for a
and
minute, and then
this
all of a
is
sudden
a
it went
moment
away.
where we
So
are
I don't
showing
know
all the
what
time
happened.
how
If it was
close we
YouTube
are,
or what.
how united we get when we have to respond to this situation. So definitely there's level of coordination between the city and the state. And again, in order for us to continue doing the work, I'm here looking at the BQE from the window where I am right now. And
So,
I could see how the vehicle that was not moving hours ago. And now I can see the vehicles moving as a typical rush hours on the BQE in a Friday evening. And it's the same thing that we're doing in many places. We have flooding
yeah,
in
and I
Bryant
did
Park,
that with
in
YouTube.
Digg,
I
in
had
Roseville
500
Parkway.
subscribers, man. I was so
However,
happy.
our men and women, they're working hard the whole day, and we are
But
restoring,
stupid
the
YouTube
road
takes
to be
them
sure
away from
that
me.
those New Yorkers who had to travel, we encourage everyone to stay home. But those who on the street, we want to be sure that we bring back the level of normality that we need in our.
There is no doubt that crews out there are working very hard today, Commissioner. So certainly that is spot on. I do want to ask you, as we look forward here to the evening, our meteorologists here are saying that we are expecting another strong round of rain that could potentially bring
And I
down at
worked
least
hard to
another
get
half an
those subs.
inch. What are your major concerns here as we enter into the evening
YouTube
hours?
should give them back to
Well,
me.
at this moment, what we are doing is what we had in our hand is having deploying all the resources that we have. That's what all agencies are doing. Again, all commissioners from DP,
How do
they
I
are
keep it from saying
doing their job to be
I'm in
sure
spot
that we
running?
assist other and other agency. DOT is assisting NYPD with tow trucks on highways to pull out disabled vehicles. DOT is clearing
Yeah, I
cultivating
did it
zones
with YouTube.
on highways, falling tree branches, and any other debris that we have. And DOT is preparing condition report on flooding condition and closure. So we are.
But when I
Like I
did
said,
have
what
those
I have seen on
many
the
subs,
video
my
Adams
views
mentioned,
went up.
all the
So
agency they are on the street. We're doing everything that is required in order for us again to show New Yorkers that we know how to respond in situations such as the one that we are facing today.
Well, what are the toughest spots going forward this evening? What's your expectation, especially these low-lying areas?
Well, what we are doing is, again, when there have been those cases of flooding in the basement, our rescue team, coordinated with NYPD Fire Department, we are responding. Thanks God, no one has died, and we are responding to all those situations. We know that also in the coastal area, and close to Far Rockaway, Howard Beach, those are areas that this part of our reality with
All
climate
right,
change.
Commissioner, we're going to keep an eye on that. We thank you. We're just going to cut away here because the MTA right now is about to give us an update on how the storm is affecting the subway and more. There's Governor Hochul. Let's listen in.
We are on track to possibly create a new record of 10 inches of rain falling in literally 24 hours. The last time we even had this number was in 1955, and that was over a 2-day period. So this is Hurricane Ida level waters. If those of you remember 2 years ago, the
Let's go back
devastation
at
and
the
the
subs
flooding,
back
many
as
people
I'm at
trapped in their
what
basements,
nine
unable
four
to
hundred
escape.
ninety
And
six
so we're
subs.
trying
So
to make sure that all New Yorkers know that while we saw an incredible amount of rain fall down and flooding our streets
let's
and our
hope I
basements
get
and
them
our
back.
homes over the last early part of our day and last night, it is not finished yet. There's more rain on the way. It keeps moving, and it's hard to exactly pinpoint where it'll go next. But I'm asking and urging all New Yorkers to continue to be vigilant, and the state of New York will always be there prepared in advance. We have thousands of DOT members and thruway authority crews and utility crews ready to assist. I've deployed the National Guard. I've declared a state of emergency that'll help me be able to deploy resources more quickly. We are concerned about individuals who have been in schools earlier in the day, but fortunately, we're hearing that all the children who had been taking the subway to
Oh
school, taking the
darn!
school bus, are able to go home freely now and are safe. But the next challenge we face is this evening commute. The good news is it's a Friday. A lot of people work remotely, didn't come in today, so the volume is not what it could have been. That is positive. But our teams at the MTA have been working tirelessly in order to ensure that we could have a smoother commute this evening and fighting against the forces of Mother Nature. The flooding, the images you see of the water coming into the subways and flooding tracks, especially Metro North. And so Grand Central Station, normally a busy, active place, is a place where people are concerned. They want to find out the answers. And so I'm working closely with all of you to get that information
Please
out.
like
So in
and
real time,
subscribe and
you can
comment. Thank
check for the
you.
most up-to-date information on whether or not their train is going home, the subway is in service, where they should go. And that's the information that the MTA is going to share with you right now. But continue to check their apps. And the best thing you can do if you can is please stay home. And if you have to go out in a vehicle, if there's any water on the
Man, look
road,
at that! Wow.
really rethink your decision, because the one place that people are most vulnerable to losing their lives during a flooding event, and we've had so many. Early this summer, we had a 1,000-year flooding event in Hudson Valley. We had then followed by 2 100-year events. This is something, in the 2 years I've been governor, I've seen so many flooding events. The loss of life comes when people get in their vehicles, they think they can get through safely. The water rises even to 6 inches or a foot, and you can be swept away. And I want every New Yorker to
I
go
don't
home
know,
safe
man.
tonight, so
People
they
do
can
it
see
all
their
the
families
time.
again. So be smart
If you
about it.
have
Stay
a
home. Don't get in your vehicle.
well,
This
even
will
the
pass.
lifted truck will
As always, New
probably be
Yorkers are
flooded too.
strong
But
together. We look out for
I
each
don't
other.
know,
We
dude.
support each other. And my
People don't
heartfelt
listen.
gratitude to all the first responders and the teams from the city and the state and the counties who are banding together to make sure New
And
Yorkers are safe during this
when
record
they get
historic event
stuck,
once
or
again.
they
So
can't
thank you.
move, or the
Back
car
to you,
gets
Annalisa.
flooded out, or the
Thank you,
engine,
Governor. And
or
I
the
just
water
want to
gets
say
into
that
the
New
engine,
Yorkers heeded the governor's warning and the warnings
and
that the
then they
MTA
want the
put out
first
yesterday. We
responders
had
to come
very
out and
low
help them.
commuter levels this morning. Of course, it's a post-COVID Friday, which is generally a low
The fire
commuting day.
department, the
But
trucks
the
are
fact
now
that the
built
governor and the MTA were able
for
to alert
flooded
people is
waters.
definitely a plus. Listen, we've had as much rain in the 24-hour period. By the end of the 24-hour
People should
period,
just
we're
stay
projecting as
home, but
much
hey, they
rain
don't
as
listen.
we normally get in 2 to 3 months. This is really, as the governor said, historic. Our focus right now is getting everybody home safely. And the number one thing everyone needs to know is the subway service continues to be limited. Some lines are running. The A train is running. The 7
Although
train is running.
that's
Those are
flooded there
important
too.
lines. But many other lines are suspended fully or continue to be operating partial service. So please, to everybody who's reliant on the subway, look at the My
Look at the
MTA app
water coming
on
down.
our website, www.mta.info. It'll have full up-to-date information.
Those
And also for commuter
subways, are
railroaders,
they
set train
electric
timers. That's the
or
best way. If you are normally a subway commuter, but you have a bus option, if there's a bus that you know that'll get you home, that'll get you where you're going, please consider the bus. There are 3,500 buses out there. They are rolling. They are getting to their destination. Only a couple of them have been stranded.
I won't be
Overwhelming
surprised if they
buses are
shut down all
the
the
lion's
subways.
share of our mass transit right now. So please consider a bus. Now, Metro North, we're standing in historic Grand Central Terminal. There are about 1,000 people down on the floor. We have now been able to restore one of the 3 lines of Metro North, literally up on the board in the last couple of minutes of a track assignment for the Hudson line. We are hoping to have track service operating from the other 2 lines, the New Haven line and the Harlem line, but it is by no means certain. The way to be certain is to get on a subway train and go to the Bronx, where there is to get around the water condition in the South Bronx if you're a Metro North commuter. So if you're on the Harlem line or the New Haven line, consider taking a train to Williamsbridge or Wakefield, and you can get those Metro North trains that will take you to your destination to the north, and it is all on the MTA website. Kathy's going to have more about that in a moment. And there's also cross honoring. So even if you just have a Metro North pass, you can get on the subway. Our MTA transit crews will honor that. There is also good Long Island Railroad service. Grand Central Madison, downstairs here, the new terminal is providing full service. At Penn Station, there are some delays, but also providing service. That is a plus for the whole system. In addition, if you're a subway commuter going to Queens, you can use the Long Island Railroad and just show your Metro card, and that will be honored. That's called cross honoring. So if it's easy for you to take the Long Island Railroad and your normal subway commute is disrupted, take the Long Island Railroad. It's on us. One disruption on the Long Island Railroad, the Far Rockaway line right now is terminating at Valley Stream because of a water condition. They're working to cure that, but right now, just that one line, one branch of the Long Island Railroad is impacted. Subway impacts are greatest in Brooklyn. It's no secret that Brooklyn got hit brutally hard in the early AM, and that has continued. Demetrius Critchlow, who runs the subways, is going to talk more about that. But let me tell you, this would have been a lot worse if we haven't gotten pretty good, unfortunately, in the era of climate change at preparing for these kinds of weather events. Deploying pump trains, covering all the grades, making sure that all the drains are working, and the resiliency work we've done in the last 2 years since Hurricane Ida. It's something that Governor Hochul asked us to really focus on to make sure that we didn't have more of those subway station waterfalls that we all saw during Hurricane Ida, and we've been mostly successful. I want to thank the MTA employees. A lot of them came in early, and a lot of them are staying late and working through the weekend. They are getting, as I said, a lot of practice dealing with this, but we bless them for their service. On the roads, we did have 44 buses out of 3,500 that got stranded at some point during the day, but all of them are out of harm's way right now. But reinforcing the governor's point once again, if you don't have to travel, please stay home. And if you do have to travel, consider a bus. That is probably the most reliable way to get where you're going. With that, let me turn it over to Metro North President, Long Island Railroad Interim President, Kathy Rinaldi.
Thank you, Jano. Most of the impacts, as Jano indicated today, were on Metro North, and as he also indicated, the good news is that we have been able to restore limited Hudson Line service over the course of the last hour or so. 2 trains left in the 4 o'clock hour. We have another 2 leaving in the 5 o'clock hour. So we're happy to be able to clear the terminal out of it for our Hudson Line customers. The crux of the problem today was flooding in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx. It especially affected a stretch that at the Harlem line and the New Haven line traverse. We have traffic patrols out there now to see whether the water has receded, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to restore some limited Harlem line and New Haven line service tonight to be able to clear out the terminal and get people home. We are seeing flooding conditions elsewhere in the system. We got some water on Valhalla near just north of North White Plains. We've got some water in Tuckahoe. The good news is that we were able to clear a flooding condition near Ossining, so the Hudson line is completely restored. So we appreciate very much the patience of our customers during this unprecedented rainfall. We're hopeful that once the water recedes and once the last band of rain moves through tonight, that we'll be able to run more or less normal service tomorrow. But we are committed to getting people home tonight and getting them home safely. So with that, I'll turn it over to Demetrius.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm Demetrius Critchlow, Senior Vice President of Subways. Today was just not an easy day for us, but like New Yorkers, we are resilient. We continue to press on. This weather event was consistently changing, made it difficult to accurately predict where it would go and the impacts of where it would hit, and what would happen next. We still expect some rain in the afternoons, but that continues to be something that we are a bit concerned about. But the men and women of Subways and New York City Transit as a whole have done a fantastic job in restoring and working to try to restore the service. We're diligently working right now to be able to get things back to service. The preparations for this heavy rain started yesterday when we learned of the challenging forecast. The division staged personnel at different locations. We staged equipment. We got pump trains ready. We got people in place. We had pumps on trucks. We checked all of our drains to make sure that we had appropriate protection in place. But we got a lot of, as General mentioned, we got a lot of rain in the last day. So we're thankful that these preventative measures got us to where we are right now. Now, Kathy talked a little bit about the Metro North. We're encouraging folks to take the 2, 4, 5, and D lines as the best options for customers on the Metro North. The 2 train is currently operating between 241st Street and 110th, and the 4 train is operating from Woodlawn to Bowling Green. The 5 train is operating from Dyer Avenue to Bowling Green, and the D service is running normally. I'll continue with at least the positive news. Due to the hard work of the teams, we do have service.
Okay, what? Hang on.
Railway is also back to normal service. We continue to work on the other lines to continue to get progress on those lines. But we encourage you to continue to
Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what happened there, but appears to be back now.
next on our service. As we prepare for the second wave of rainfall, our pump trains are ready and our crews are in place and we're staffed. We're ready to take it on, in addition to continue to restore service on these other lines. So thank you.
All right, questions first. Josh Einiger, WABC. Josh.
Thanks, Tim. So, Jano or Kathy, actually, question for you about resiliency. I guess 2 of the 3 lines are.
Well, they don't mind our box doing that, and how do I
guess I'm
fix
wondering,
it?
you've done a lot of work on resilience. Is this an area you're going to look at as a pressure point in the future, or is it just so much rain, something's going to get hit?
You know, we've spent billions on resiliency since Superstorm Sandy. That, you know, places like the 100-acre Coney Island yard, the 207th Street yard, we literally have put in a request for a federal grant to do work on this Mott Haven area of the Metro North system. So it's very timely. We are very well aware of this particular area of vulnerability. We've done a ton of work. We have more to go.
All right, in the center there, that's Alice Gaynor with CBS2. Alice.
You mentioned this could have been worse. You were talking about Ida. How does this rank compared to Superstorm Sandy and also Ida?
I'm not a meteorologist, so I can't tell you the specifics of rainfall and rainfall pattern. But as I mentioned before,
on the system.
On the system, listen, this is Ida had a much more destructive effect. I mean, Kathy's talking about being able to restore service on the same day, and at least a significant chunk of Metro North, and we're talking about significant subway service within hours of the conclusion of the rainfall. So this may be a little bit better than Hurricane Ida, but who's comparing? These are, you know, this seems to be a regular occurrence in the era of climate change, and it really hits New York hard because we are so dependent on our mass transit system moving.
All right, over here on the East Coast, we've got Sarah Goodman from the New York Post. Sarah.
Hi. Do you have any idea why it was that Brooklyn was so badly hit, or why the East River crossings were hit so hard?
Well, I'll let Demetrius talk about the Brooklyn, but literally the concentration of rainfall in the morning. I was there. I live in Brooklyn. I mean, I think we had, you know, an inch and a half in 1 hour. It was torrential. So that was really that localized rainfall early in the morning, supplemented throughout the day, that seems to have created the particular conditions in Brooklyn. We are right now, one of the reasons that we're struggling on the west side, on the what we call the IRT, on the 123, is because of a condition at 79th Street and Broadway, where I grew up. So it's not just Brooklyn. It just happens that Brooklyn got hit first and hard in the early morning.
But the subway system is obviously the lowest point, and so depending on where the rain comes, it's going to seek its way of the lowest point of the subway is where we wind up going. The team was ready in all of the boroughs. We had people in each of the boroughs to be able to respond to it. And I think in terms of the other locations that we had prior to this, we had staff people at all of our flood-prone locations that we had identified for floods in the past.
Chris Glorioso, WNBC.
Jano, you've talked a lot about how congestion pricing and the capital funding that would be obtained through that can help improve the system. Specifically, how would capital funding under congestion pricing have maybe prevented some of the inconvenience people had today?
Listen, the congestion pricing is funding many different things. It's funding ADA elevators. It's funding, signal modernization so we can run more trains safely closer together, more frequent service. But one of the investments in the MTA capital program, one of the categories of investment, is resiliency improvements. And obviously, we're going to spend a lot of that money when congestion pricing comes into being on things that will make the subway system more resilient for these more repetitive climate events.
And Evan Simko-Bednarski here from the New York Daily News. Evan.
Hey, Jenna. So you guys spent a fair amount of time preparing for this, getting people in place, getting pump trains in place, and yet still a large portion of the system was knocked out by flooding. It sounds like that's an issue of volume rather than having the right people and the right equipment in the right places at the right time. But can you talk to me a bit about what happens between now and the next time this happens? Do you need more pump trains? Do you need more people?
We have to be honest with ourselves. We can pump millions of gallons of water in hours. Millions and millions of gallons of water in hours. There are limitations right now. I think the DEP commissioner said it this morning that the sewer system has only the capacity to process 1.75 inches of rain in an hour, and there were 2.5+ inches of rain in one of the hours in the morning. So part of it is the capacity of the city's sewer system, which doesn't measure up to this particular level of rain in a short period of time. But this subway system is incredibly resilient. Pumping capacity, both mechanical and gravity-driven, is really extraordinary and unprecedented. And the fact that we are continuing to operate service, given the volume of rain, is something we're proud of.
There, as top MTA officials have been describing the situation for transit around the region, the rain just hammering the region and hammering mass transit. Basically, the subway system has been spotty at best today. They've been working so hard to restore service in many cases, but mostly they're saying take the bus if you can in the city, because bus service seems to be mostly intact. They also talked about Metro North. One line has been restored, the Hudson line. The other two, the New Haven and the Harlem line, they're still working on it. It's going to be a long night ahead.
Yeah, and then if you are stuck, they are cross-honoring on all platforms, so that is something to look into as well. In the meantime, we are going to start our 5 o'clock news right now.
This is CBS 2 News at 5.
Major flooding issues all day across the city, and that includes scenes like this. Water pouring onto subway platforms. The MTA just spoke about the impact.
Prospect Park, Brooklyn looked more like a rushing river. Cars and bikes having a difficult time even getting out there to navigate the streets. And looking live outside after being inundated with rain this morning, more is still coming down as we speak. Good evening once again. I'm Maurice Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. All day, we have been tracking the flooding conditions from the city to Long Island to New Jersey. We have live team coverage with CBS 2 crews spread out across the tri-state area.
We're going to begin with Lonnie Quinn tracking the rain, which is still falling right now and will continue to. Lonnie.
Yeah, I think some areas are still seeing the potential to pick up an additional 2 inches of rain, perhaps. I'll show you what's happening. Here are the numbers as we continue to update them because rain is still falling out there. JFK, 8.58 inches, the big number. South Slope in Brooklyn, 6.68. Central Park and New Rochelle, 5.8 inches. Great Neck with 6.5. New Jersey totals, Ramsey, 4.12. The first thing you're going to notice here is, whoa, these numbers are not as big. Man, you got to erase that idea because our ground is being so saturated. You put 4 inches of rain. I mean, this is New Jersey basically had 3 to 4 inches of rain from Ramsey to Jersey City, to Tenafly to West Caldwell, Ridgewood. It's a lot of rain on top of saturated ground. It's just pale in comparison when I'm showing you an 8-inch reading out at JFK. And wouldn't you know, right now we have the heaviest rain for Long Island, stretching up into portions of Fairfield County. For the Jersey Shore, all right, most of it's offshore. It's nipping a little bit down on the southern portion of Ocean County, but a lot of New Jersey, you're in a drying out process right now. Hudson River right here, the situation is east of the Hudson. So where is the heaviest? Some lightning strikes out there around Green Lawn, right on top of 495, stretching over towards West Babylon. That line pushes down, like I said, offshore of the Jersey Shore, except around Forked River, Stafford. You get a little bit of rain, but the heavier stuff, you can see it, like I said, in the water, and it's pushing up towards Long Island. That's going to continue to pick up rain. And I talked about this earlier today. With a high pressure to the west and a high pressure to the east, this rain is just going to continue to train over the exact same places. Now, it's going to move slowly to the east, but then I think it's going to actually do a loop-to-loop and come back to the area. So I'm going to show you a future cast, and you'll think, okay, that's when we're done with it, but just sit tight on everything. So watch how this is going to progress. Initialization, pretty spot on, right? So let's trust this, put it into motion. Here we go, late at 8 p.m. It's out on the east end. A lot of folks in a drying out phase. But remember how I talked about how it's going to do a loop-to-loop and come back? Wait on it. Wait on it. Here we go. Here we go. That low off to our west, tugging it back into the area. And now you're looking at 11:30 a.m. with some bouts of rain. Still, it's basically the Hudson and points east, and then by 3 p.m., just some light rain out there. But I think what you want to know is how much rain are we looking at from this point forward? Well, that model I just showed you said, hey, the bigger numbers are going to be out east, 2 inches from Montauk and Riverhead. Smaller numbers, zeros in portions of the area west of New York City. So the worst rainfall from this point forward, all right, I'm talking from now looking ahead, would be Fairfield, Connecticut, but especially Long Island, that stream that's coming up from the south. The last raindrops for New Jersey. In fact, you're drying out right now. For New York City, the last raindrops Saturday morning. And then for the east end of Long Island, Saturday afternoon. So we're not done yet, guys. We've got more to go. I don't think you're going to have it as bad as it was earlier this morning. But again, another 2 inches of rain for some folks out there. Let's go back to you.
That's too much. All right. Thank you, Lonnie.
Well, we've been watching this water continuing to rush from Prospect Park in Brooklyn all day.
CBS 2's Doug Williams has been there all day. Doug, what's it look like right now?
It's similar, Maurice and Christine, than it was about an hour ago when we last spoke. It was an eerie moment about 5 minutes ago as you guys were starting this hour at 5 o'clock. The sun actually poked through the clouds. It's back hidden. But again, over the last hour or so, we've seen more of a police presence. The flooding waters from the Prospect Park Lake continue to come down as you see the current. This has been the case since 11:30 this morning, and Maurice asked about an hour ago whether the people around here who live around here are used to seeing this. Is this something that happens here? And the answer that I got was basically yes and no. One man who I spoke to lives nearby. He said he saw our reporting here at noon and saw how hard it was raining, and after work assumed when he came here that it would have subsided, and was shocked to see that these cars are still driving through what looks to be over a foot of sitting lake water in this intersection. Another man I spoke to was actually on a run and exercising. He said this park floods all the time because of the lake, and yet this was another level, something he had not seen to this point. We've seen people try to fight this current, whether it is people on delivery vehicles or it's people trying to walk through. It is difficult. It is dangerous. And even though the rain has subsided, the dangers remain from this huge amount of rainfall. For now, we're live here in Prospect Park, Brooklyn. Doug Williams, CBS 2 News.
All right, Doug, thank you.
Also in Prospect Park, take a look at this. It's a large tree fell on a car. This uprooted tree also left a sidewalk in a cracked mess. The branches span the road, hitting cars parked across the street and also leaving branches and debris on the ground.
Yeah, definitely the saturated ground play a big part in that right there. Just tree coming out of the ground. Incredible
Absolutely.
picture, truly. And then all that rain poured into some subway stations and also flooded buses, led to many service disruptions.
And the MTA just gave us an update just a short time ago. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor, she was there, and she's live at Grand Central Terminal. What's more on that, Alice?
Maurice and Christine, we just wrapped up with MTA officials. They say subway service was disrupted the most in Brooklyn. As for the rails, it was Metro North that suffered the most. Behind me, this is a live look at the crowd here at Grand Central Terminal. They say the good news is that when it comes to Metro North, they were able to restore one of 3 lines for the Hudson line. When it comes to bus service, they say 34 buses out of 3,500 were stranded today, but they do say bus service is the most reliable, and you should take that. From Queens to Brooklyn, the water poured in underground.
As you see, everybody's waiting, a big crowd. You have to get an alternate route.
As a result, this man was left contemplating how to get to his office.
Thankfully, my office is not a mile away. Worst comes to worst, I'll walk. Unlikely I'll get a cab. Buses are packed.
Prior to the storm, the MTA said water in the system would be inevitable, especially with flash flooding. They gave an update this afternoon after a day full of issues.
I'm asking and urging all New Yorkers to continue to be vigilant, and the state of New York will always be there prepared in advance. We have thousands of DOT members and thruway authority crews and utility crews ready to assist. I've deployed the National Guard. And the best thing you can do if you can is please stay home.
New Yorkers heeded the governor's warning and the warnings that the MTA put out yesterday. We had very low commuter levels. Our focus right now is getting everybody home safely.
Officials urged people to stay home if possible, but many could not.
I just came to take a train to go to White Plains. They said there's no train at all.
Best of luck to everybody else as well, because we're all dealing with the same rain.
And when it comes to subway service, the latest update, they say they were able to restore the following lines: A, C, D, E, J, M, Q, and 7. They are cross-honoring, but like you heard, the best thing you can do, if possible, is to stay home. Live at Grand Central Terminal, Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
All right, Alice, thank you. Our first alert weather coverage continues now with a check on the response in the 5 boroughs.
Joining us now live is New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Mayor, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time with us on this busy day. A quick check of just where things stand right now.
Yeah, well, this was this type of day, I put it on mine and head out there early this morning, and we saw that in parts of the city we were dealing with flooding. But we have to take our hats off to New Yorkers who decided to take alternate transportation instead of being on the road. Our first responders, NYC, the police department, our firefighters, 15 rescues with cars, 3 in basement apartments, 0 serious injuries and 0 deaths with our city. We managed this crisis in a very, very real way, and I want to just thank New Yorkers and our civil servants who did the job.
Where are the toughest spots right now, Mayor Adams?
As you saw with the earlier video of what we saw in the Prospect Park area, in the large amount of water, and some of our highways, we were able to close down the highways to prevent additional cars being stuck. There's some areas in the Bronx where we're seeing water problems. So it's a combination, but the water's starting to recede, and New Yorkers are heeding the warning. And the joy here is this city has an excellent transportation system. Even when our subways flood, we have a bus network. You saw the numbers. Only 35 buses were really impacted at the magnitude. We continue to move this city as dynamic as it is.
Mayor, this isn't the first time that we've seen storms like this, and unfortunately is becoming much more common these days. And many in your administration has cited climate change. Given that, the Brooklyn Borough president today did issue a statement, and he said that given those circumstances, he believes that you and the governor need to revamp processes for notifying New Yorkers about storms and water emergencies before they happen. In other words, faster notification, better warning systems. Your thoughts?
We are excited to hear any ideas coming from any elected official. Notify NYC put out a notification 245 around 2:45, 2:50 sometimes yesterday afternoon. And our major media markets. I mean, I have to take my hats off to you. You were broadcasting this storm that was coming. One would have to be under a rock that didn't know that the storms were coming in this city. And we continue to use social media, all forms of notification. But I want to call on all of my elected officials. This is not a time for tweets and news releases. It's time to be in the street. They should have been out there early this morning. The job of an elected official is to respond to your constituents during an emergency. And if they have times to talk about what we should be doing after the storm, and we got rain getting ready to come, I think they need to rethink that. Let's get out here and help New Yorkers. I was out this morning. I was out about an hour ago, and I want to see them out there with me.
Should you have been out yesterday, though?
Yes, I was. I was in the street yesterday dealing with several different issues. And remember, this administration is probably different than others. I built a team of professionals. Zach Iskel, ex-military person, is in charge of NYC. This is not a one-man or one-woman show. I have professionals that understand this subject matter and area. The chancellor handled my schools. The police department handled the emergencies. NYC handled their aspect of it. We are a team of professionals, and we're doing the job. It's not about just the mayor. It's the team that are assembled together, and we show what good work they did. 0 deaths, 0 serious injuries, 3 rescues from basements, 15 rescues from apartment. The water's receded. New York City is continuing to operate the way we know how.
Mayor, what about long-term fixes? We've talked about barriers in the past. We've talked about getting people out of basement apartments or shoring them up. What does that look like going forward?
Well, there are many long-term fixes that we're doing. In every storm, we'll continue to evaluate and look at best practices across the globe. My team at DEP and our environmental groups, they have traveled across the globe and seeing what other people are doing. Let's be honest with ourselves. I like to say we have 2 mothers. One gave birth and one sustained us. We have been abusive to the one that sustains us, and we have to deal with that. You see the billions of dollars we're spending along our waterfront, how we're going to retrofit and build out our sewers. But there's other things everyday New Yorkers can do. Adopt a cash basin and clean it out, clean the leaves and the trash, and be real proactive in how we conserve energy and really think about long-term issues around improving our environment and not be abusive to the mother that sustains us.
Mayor, as you are well aware, and as we've been following here for the past year, we're also dealing with an asylum seeker crisis, and we know that some of them are actually staying in tents at the moment. Have you been getting any reports about conditions there?
No, not at all. We received 1 or 2 leaks from some of the tense areas, but this is the new norm that we're dealing with. We know over 60,000 people in our care, getting close to 10,000 a month. The surge is here. This is a reality that New York is having to experience, and we have to adjust accordingly. But the tent area, they have held up during a storm of this magnitude. It shows how well they are built. We would rather not have to put people in this condition, but we are at a room. And we made that clear over and over again, and we are going to need help to ensure that we can get through this. This is not sustainable, and we have made that clear to the federal government and to the state.
Okay, Mayor Adams, thank you so much. Before we let you go, what are you looking for tonight? What's your expectation tonight? There's more rain coming.
Well, the rain is going to come. One of the great singers that said it this rainy night in Georgia, he's going to just sit down with his guitar, listen, have a good meal at home. You can rekindle your romance, listen to the rain fall, and stay home with the families. Let's get off the streets and let the first responders do their job.
All right, so we'll try to stay home tonight. Mayor Adams, thank you for the insight. Appreciate the update.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're back with much more coverage with the flooding situation around the region right after this. Welcome back. Our coverage continues. These are live pictures from Rosedale, Queens. A scene played out across the region tonight. There's a driver in a puddle, and the advice is, we always hear it, don't go into puddles. You have no idea how deep they are. This poor driver here stuck, waiting for the water to go away or waiting for someone to help him out.
Turn around.
Exactly.
Turn around.
Don't even try it. Well, the mayor is warning New Yorkers in basement apartments to be careful of flooding.
It has been an issue in Brooklyn, where CBS 2's Ali Bauman is in Williamsburg, similar to what we saw during Hurricane Ida. She's in the Brooklyn basement, actually. Ali, what can you tell us?
That's right, Christina Maurice. Right now, I'm in the Russian Orthodox Cathedral, the basement here on North 12th Street in Williamsburg, and this is just one of the many basements in this area that have flooded today. Now, the father here says that this happened because water came from street level and flooded in through the doors. But similar to what we saw in Ida, a lot of people in this area have also been seeing sewage backing up from the toilets in their apartment. Now, that's what happened to Thomas Trevison. We have video showing for you that he lives in this Williamsburg apartment, where this morning the toilet and bathtub started backing up and flooding into his basement apartment. He says there was 3 inches of sewer water for hours until he was able to clear that out. Assemblymember Emily Gallagher says this has been an issue for many residents in Brooklyn today.
A lot of these books and keepsakes were ruined. There were issues with the water getting all the way into where the mattress is. There was a computer that was completely damaged.
There's been some areas where we've gotten the storm pipes cleared, but I really think that the city needs to make a bigger investment in the equipment to clear storm drains. I don't think we really have the levels that we need.
Now, if you saw my hit in the 4 o'clock hour, you'll know that the father here has done a phenomenal job clearing this basement out. I mean, he says that this was 2 feet high, the water here this morning. They've been at it all day trying to just clean this up and get this water down. But as we've been reporting, more rain is expected to be coming. For now, we're live in Williamsburg. Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Ali.
By now, the city's nearly 1 million school kids should be safely home, 5:26 in the evening. But there are lingering questions tonight about whether it was even a good idea to keep the schools open.
CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer here now with a school flood report card. Marcia?
That's not good, Christina Maurice. About 150 of the city's 1,400 schools had water damage. Pupils at PS 132 in Brooklyn were evacuated to a school several blocks away because of a smoking boiler caused by the rain. And parents of students at an intermediate school in Gravesend were asked to pick up their kids due to flooding. But officials later said that message was sent prematurely. The long line snaking around Intermediate School 228 in Gravesend, Brooklyn this morning were parents and guardians who rushed to the school despite the heavy rains after they were notified to pick up their kids because the school had a building condition.
There's a big flood downstairs in the basement. It's chaotic in the auditorium. They're not letting people get their kids. It took me an hour and a half. I've been out here an hour and a half trying to get my son.
School Chancellor David Banks said the message sent by the principal
was precisely the wrong thing to do. The conditions are worse outside of the schools.
The chancellor said he would address that situation with the school, but there were questions about why he and the mayor simply didn't tell parents to keep their kids home during the torrential downpour. They could have taken a rain day or even had their kids learn remotely. The mayor defended the decision.
We should be clear that we have only a certain number of school days that we can utilize, and we must make sure we meet that. And as you see, the decision was the right decision. We do not have any issues, dangerous issues at our schools. Our children are in the schools. They're properly being educated.
The mayor said Chancellor Banks made the right call in keeping the classrooms open. The chancellor insisted that the remote option is always the last option.
Our kids need to be in school. This is where they also get their healthy meals as well. This is what allows parents to be able to continue their day to get to work and do the other things that need to happen. Whenever we make a decision to actually close schools, it is a major, major disruption. And so it is really only used really as a last resort.
But Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso faulted the mayor for not giving parents enough information to make the decision to keep their kids home.
I think people see flash flood warnings all the time, and they might not understand exactly how severe one is going to be over another. But the mayor coming to a press conference or showing up and really letting us know that this is going to be severe would change the tone, would have me prepared as to whether or not maybe we stay home and not take our kids to school.
Well, the borough president also called on both Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul to revamp their procedures for notifying New Yorkers about weather emergencies. And as he told you just minutes ago, Christine, he didn't like that at all.
No, he didn't.
No. All right. We'll
Overall,
continue to
a
follow
very tough day, I think, for everybody, right?
Yep.
and we'll follow the politics going forward. No question.
We will.
Thank you, Marcia.
Marcia.
All right, I'm going to reset here. It's 5:30 now. Good evening once again. I'm Maurice Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. Our First Alert team coverage continues.
Let's start with Lonnie Quinn tracking the forecast. As we watch the screen there, we've got our reporters fanned out all across the region. Lonnie is looking ahead to a night where we have more rain coming our way.
Yeah, especially east of New York City. And that's what we're dealing with right now, all right? So the picture, yeah, raindrops on the lens. You can't see anything, but the heaviest rain east of the city, out around Long Island. There's your picture. Okay, there's the Nassau-Suffolk County line. So it's right over portions of Suffolk County, stretching up into Bridgeport, Connecticut, moving into New Haven right now. But off the Jersey Shore, it still lingers around the very southern tip. I'll show you what we're talking about. So Forked River, Stafford, you've got some light rain, but you can see the brighter colors where the heavier rain is offshore. For the most part, you're done with the worst of what this system has to show you. Now, if we go to the north, here it is, all right? Suffolk County, Smithtown, right over the LIE, over to Islip. Bouts of heavy rain coming down as we speak. And when you look at that red color and you wonder, hey, how fast is that rain coming down? This is a radar estimated rate, showing like in the last hour it's picking up 3.6 inches. That's going to be on the high side. Maybe it's half of that, right? So maybe it's like 1.8 for one of those heavy cells. It's a lot of rain. It's a lot of rain out there. And again, your ground is saturated, even if Long Island thus far hasn't picked the biggest numbers of anybody, because JFK has seen, you've had 8 inches there. So out around the East End, it hasn't been the biggest numbers. But everybody's had big numbers, just not necessarily as big as what JFK saw. But watch how this is all going to play out. Initialization on the computer models is spot on. So put it into motion, and you will see it push off to the east. All right, but watch. Watch, this is 2:30 in the morning. It comes back to the area, setting up again with the heaviest in Fairfield County and Suffolk County, eventually creeping even into New York City. There's 5 p.m., and then you're done with it. So how much rain are we talking about? Well, the graph is suggesting maybe a 2-inch reading or more from Riverhead out to the East End. Some zeros, lots of zeros, west of New York City. The HER is saying the biggest number would be a 2.3 around Bridgeport, 1.7 Brentwood, 0.4 in New York City, 0.4 for around Sparta as well, and the European. All right, putting the biggest number as a 2.4 around New Haven, Connecticut, just outside of our viewing area. But your 1.4 Riverhead, your 1.7 Montauk, and then as you push off to the west again, tiny numbers still. So I think as of right now, we're going to go from the Hudson east to still see the chances for the big rain out there. It's sort of like a rainstorm that just won't stop. Keep in mind, the same system, Ophelia, these are the remnants, but Ophelia was with us for 3 days for the last, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and now back again, not leaving until Saturday. Let me break it out here, Ophelia. It's all yours, guys.
Yeah,
Truly.
It's been a week.
Yeah. Thank you, Lonnie. All right, the storm, as you've seen, has flooded a number of roads in our area.
CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram live in Rosedale, Queens, with more on the conditions happening there right now. Jennifer.
Hi, Maurice and Christine. We're on 147th Avenue here in Rosedale, where we've been all day. Take a look at what's happening here behind me. Several inches of water, 8 to 10 at best here right now. What's happened, police were here and blocked off this area all day. People in this neighborhood are just frustrated, breaking the barrier. We can have Dana show you right now, and the yellow tape trying to get through. This fire truck is also trying to get through, but it is chaos here. There are several cars beyond the FedEx truck over there that are stuck. I did talk with the gentleman just a few minutes ago before we got on the air here at 5:30. He says he lives right around the corner. He didn't think it was a big deal because this area gets flooded all the time. He drove, and then all of a sudden his car just submerged in the water, shut off, and now he basically says he lost his car. So this is the scene that's happening here, flooding on the streets. But take a look at what's happening inside of people's homes in this neighborhood as well. They are living with rain. Take a listen. Living with rain, literally.
We got water in our basement.
This is 222nd Street near 147th Avenue in Springfield Gardens. Garden hoses outside of homes, draining rainwater outside of basements.
I have a pump in my basement, pumping water into the street, and then I have a pump in my driveway, pumping water into the street.
But not everyone on the block has water pumps.
People in Home Depot fighting for the pumps, literally fighting for pumps.
This family, who also lives nearby, didn't want to be identified.
It's really horrible right now.
Not only do they have to get more than 8 to 10 inches of water out of their basement, they have to get new furniture, clothes, and food.
We are trying our best to be safe here.
And outside, as steady rain and gusty winds continue to slam the tri-state, people who work and live in Rosedale are having a hard time getting around. This is an impassable Brookville Boulevard near 147th Avenue, where drivers abandoned their cars that were submerged in floodwaters.
It is a nightmare, but what can we do?
Another live look at where we are right now here in Rosedale. You can see the street is flooded, but still people are here just trying to get past. You can see the FedEx truck. The fire truck is also here.
You are a nightmare.
But the cars are just backed up here. You know, we've been hearing this all day from officials. Stay home if you can. Do not go into the water when you see it like this, because your car may get stuck. And as you can see, that is definitely what happened on this roadway here today. And again, flooding here in Queens, in Southeast Queens, on the streets, but also inside of people's basements.
Man, that's a new fire engine right there.
This area is prone to flooding, and they're
brand new,
constantly
so
just pumping water out of their basements. We are live in Rosedale, a busy and flooded Rosedale. Jennifer Bisram, CBS.
why can't people just stay home?
Thank you
Like,
so much.
Continuing our team coverage now, moving to Long Island.
CBS 2's Carolyn Gossoff live in Herricks in Nassau County. Carolyn.
Maurice and Christine, we're definitely getting a break right now from the soaking rains we have seen all day, and these waters are beginning to recede. We've seen pockets of
well, we
flooded
haven't
roads.
had
It's
that,
not
my friend.
widespread
It's
through
been
Nassau
dry over
County,
here.
but low-lying streets, we do see some flooding, and this is the worst of it. This is Herricks Road here in Herricks. Normally busy road, looks like a river right now, although it is receding. It looks like Herricks Park Pond overflowed, and that's causing all these problems for several blocks here. The county executive says that this does not rise to the level of a state of emergency for Nassau County, but it has flooded some roads from the North Shore to the south. Take a look. Starting with the North Shore, you could see that Shore Road in Glen Cove was knee-deep with floodwaters. As we drove south, things got a little worse. Near Kennedy Airport, you just saw Jennifer Bisram. On the Nassau side of that, it was the wettest September day on record, so we saw heavily traveled Peninsula Boulevard flooded in several sections. There was a car rescue there, and side streets, a few side streets were flooded. In Oceanside, police had to rescue another driver who tried to traverse a flooded road and then stalled out. And back here in Herricks, folks are telling us that this is the second time this has happened in about 6 months.
I don't think they were ready this time, so they didn't have setbacks out this time.
Nobody expected it to be this bad.
No. School just canceled all the afternoon sports, so volleyball and everything else, JCC canceled.
Have you ever seen Herricks Road like this?
Last time they closed some roads, but no, this is bad, especially when it happens right now, traffic hour. So it's a lot of detours right now. We on the social media tell our friends to try to avoid the area and take secondary routes.
And it doesn't appear it's completely over yet. The county executive, Bruce Blakeman, just sent out a robocall urging Nassau County residents in low-lying areas on the North Shore and the South Shore to avoid going out tonight for pedestrian or any kind of car activities that would require that you may come upon a road that is flooded and it's really hard to see it at night. You're urged, if that should happen, not to try to go through a wet road, but turn around, and if you get stuck in the water, don't try to get out of your car, but call 911. Reporting from Herricks, Long Island, Carolyn Gossoff, CBS 2 News.
Carolyn, one thing I think it's important to point out, and you started to say it before, this is one area in Nassau County. Widespread? No, right? The rest of the area free and clear, so to speak.
It's really hit or miss. I mean, we saw it, Maurice, in little pockets. You're not seeing it miles of, underwater. If you put up a drone, it's not like you're going to see sandy-like flooding. But there are pockets, dips in the roads. What we saw it in Rockville Center as well, where, one full block could be a foot of water or even higher, and then the next block is dry. But if you live on one of those flooded roads, like these folks behind us, unfortunately are pumping out their basement and their garage tonight, they're in a spot that traditionally floods. So it's not only the flood-prone areas. We're seeing just, dips in roads and low-lying areas, and all of this water just could not be absorbed day after day after day of rain, and so we're seeing it, not only in the flood-prone traditional areas, but certainly not widespread, not countywide.
But so difficult for those involved. Carolyn, thank you so much for that.
All day we've been tracking the heavy rain and flash flooding.
And you have a live picture right now outside. This is Prospect Park in Brooklyn. Another check of your forecast and conditions right after this.
Yep, well said, brother. Well said. But people don't do that.
In Westchester, the water's starting to recede in some areas after major problems this morning.
CBS 2's Tony Aiello continues our coverage now from New Rochelle. Tony.
KJ, this is one of those areas where the floodwaters have thankfully receded. This area behind me was totally flooded 3 hours ago. You see the picnic table back there, it was completely underwater. But the skies have dried a little bit. The water has receded. Folks are keeping an eye on the forecast, which contains more rain. So a little bit of nerves after this September rain to remember. Epic rainfall, a record for a September day. Hour by hour, inch by inch, the water following the path of least resistance to low-lying areas. Floodwater from this neighborhood in New Rochelle is washing down onto the grounds of Payne Cottage, and then it's flowing over this wall and out onto North Avenue, where you can see what it's doing to the traffic.
I was here since 8:30 this morning, and I saw the whole thing flood in less than 2 hours. It's crazy.
Water overwhelmed storm sewers, flowing right into New Rochelle High School. Here's a view through a window into the weight room.
The weight room was flooded. My teacher told us just pack up and go, and then they told us to hold in place.
The first floor is really bad. Our brand new library, it got flooded again.
up to your knees. The water was really bad in the school. Everyone had to be moved up to the second floor.
Students were released just before noon, some forced to make their way through the flooding.
Was not fun. It was, my shoes are soaked, my feet are soaked.
This is flooding on Winding Brook Road. A school bus drove through it and stalled out. The kids are okay. There is major flooding in Bronxville, with cars underwater and the school campus dismissing students early. Back in New Rochelle, countless vehicles stuck, including this van, stranding 2 workers for 2 hours until the boss used his pickup to pull them out.
But I wanted to get it out, pull it out of the water because there are pesticides in here and stuff like that, so we don't want that getting in the water.
What was it like sitting in that van for 2 hours?
Not fun and cold and wet. Cold and wet.
Cold and wet, I can confirm. Tonight, lots of people are pumping out basements here in New Rochelle. The damage will be significant across Westchester County. The police chief in Bronxville tells me about 100 cars village-wide probably totaled from the flooding that we showed you a little bit in that package. And New Rochelle High School right over here, they had just finished cleaning up from the damage and doing all their repairs after Ida 2 years ago, and now they've been flooded again. So we're waiting for a full damage assessment from New Rochelle High School, from elsewhere. I do have to say, I don't think the damage will be as severe as we saw in Ida in terms of dollars. And Christine and Maurice, you remember, certainly not in terms of lives lost. We've heard of no serious injury or lives lost from this storm. 5 people died in Westchester County 2 years ago from those floodwaters from Ida, which just came up so quickly, overwhelmed people, washed cars off the road. It really was a different situation 2 years ago, still very, very bad today.
Important perspective and context there, Tony. Thank you.
There's also flooding across the river in New Jersey.
CBS 2's Christine Sloan live in Hoboken tonight. Christine.
Maurice, we're on 9th Street here in Hoboken, and just take a look behind me. That water is receding, but the roadway is still flooded. Those cars had been submerged in water since this morning. In fact, we spoke to one of the drivers who told us that there's not much she can do with her car. She's just leaving it there. She didn't expect this. Videographer Eddie Ojeda shot some video in this area earlier today. Others in trying to make their way around flooded and closed roadways in the city. The mayor of Hoboken says a combination of heavy rainfall at high tide this morning and a lot of rainfall in general during the morning rush resulted in a good portion of Hoboken getting inundated with water. Drivers found themselves trapped.
I either stay here in my car for multiple days or someone from the city comes to help me, which I doubt because everybody is already out helping everybody else. Frustrating that the infrastructure here is so dilapidated that we can't solve this problem.
Well, officials are urging residents to stay home, not to be on the roadways. In fact, the mayor of Hoboken declared a state of emergency earlier today, and then the governor of New Jersey declared a state of emergency at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're live in Hoboken. Christine Sloan, CBS 2 News.
That seems to be the message all across the tri-state area. Christine, stay home. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Lonnie Quinn right now. And it looks like some of us are going to get some more rain in a bigger way.
Yeah, there's still a possibility for like 2 inches of additional rainfall, and the numbers are mind-boggling, right? I mean, you heard from Tony Aiello saying, well, the difference with, Ida was it put that crazy amount of rain down, floated cars away. I mean, I remember driving through that situation, and cars literally just stalled off every which way on the major dig. What we're dealing with this time, the same amount of rain. Think about that as Ida. Basically the same amount of rain. It's just Ida had faster rainfall totals. They came down at 3 inches per hour at one point in time. We haven't gotten into that type of rate. Now, you're looking outside right now, Newark Airport, New Jersey, you've got the best forecast of anybody right now. Things are drying out for you. The heaviest rain is east of New York City. Right now, 62, but this has not been a day where anybody's talking about temperatures, right? It's more about where the heavy rain is. And Maurice was saying some folks could still see a lot of rain. I think it's east of New York City where big numbers are still going to be recorded. All right, here's your bullseye for a flash flood risk that's still out there all the way through tonight. We're not done with this thing yet. Now, look, it may be slanted more towards the western side of this, the eastern side of this bullseye, but still out there, and I'll show you how it looks. When you take a look at the flood advisory, the flood statements that we had, this is for coastal flooding. All right, now we're getting close to high tide out there, so this is an issue, but we're talking minor to possibly some spotty, moderate coastal flood events out there. This is not going to have a huge storm surge like you've seen in other storms, but there's some out there, all right? So that's something to talk about. This red line that Giorgio created just a moment ago just shows you the difference, okay? The microclimates that are set up in our area. I mean, you get into western New Jersey, yeah, a little bit of rain up around Sussex County into Pike in Pennsylvania, but really, I mean, the cloud cover even sort of stops right along that red line, and things are clearing. Heavy rain now east of New York City, out around Long Island. So here we go from New Haven across the Sound. There's Setauket right there, pushing over towards Saltaire, Fire Island. I mean, some thunderstorms as well. See the lightning strikes out there? It is pushing to the east. However, just look at this flow. See how that's coming in from the east, pushing to the west? You got this going on in the atmosphere. And it's like banging its head up against the wall. So this cannot make a quick and easy exit. And even once it does make an exit, we really think that easterly push is going to bring it back into our area. Let me show you how we see this working out. Initialization, pretty darn good, right? Everything I just showed you, that's really depicting what we see out there from New Haven. Maybe it's a little bit more to the east around, say, Riverhead, and then pushing over towards Fire Island. So that's pretty good. Here we are, 7 p.m. east of New York City. The focus would be on the east end and Suffolk County. All right. Now look at this picture. 10 o'clock at night. Just bear with me on this because we're seeing a lot of indications that although it looks like we're done with it, we think that push from the east, pushing it off to the west, is going to come back. Wait on it. This is 6 a.m. Saturday. Here it comes. Can you believe that? That was a flash of some heavy rain coming even in, possibly into portions of the city, but certainly places east of New York City would get, you know, another brunt of some rain out there. So who sees the worst of it right now? From this point forward, it's Fairfield County and it is Long Island. All right. The last raindrops for New Jersey. I think for a lot of New Jersey, you've dried out and you're drying out right now. All right. For New York City, Saturday morning. For the east end and even into possibly portions of Fairfield County, it's more like Saturday afternoon. So it's a long, drawn-out event. And look, throughout the whole thing, we're talking maybe an additional 2 inches. It's a number of hours to go. So it's not coming down at, like I said, like the Ida rates, where it was 3 inches per hour. I think you'd be lucky right now to tap into some of those rates being an inch an hour. But they're probably out there. Where you saw those big flashes of red, all right, that shows you the heavy rates. So what do we see? We're projecting maybe about a half an inch, according to the graph model for New York City. The biggest number they have is Montauk, 2.1, so east of New York City. The HER model is saying the biggest number east of New York City is Bridgeport, 2.7. Brentwood not far behind at 1.7, but spot on with New York City again at around a half an inch. Smaller numbers the farther west you go. And look at this. Europeans putting nothing, or maybe like tenths of an inch out around the very western periphery of our borders. And then you look at the biggest number being New Haven at 2.4. You're 1.4 for Riverhead, 1.7 Montauk. So again, off to the east. How do we see your weekend? 67 Saturday, Sunday 74, without question. Sunday is the better day. It's going to be a beautiful Sunday. And then look at that. Sunday, you know, little football terminology, it's the kickoff for a great run of weather Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Beautiful out there. By the time you get to Thursday and Friday, maybe a few more clouds overhead, and we're hinting at a shower chance for next Friday. We'll take a shower chance. You just can't deal with the rain we're getting today.
Need to dry out. All right. Thank you.
Lonnie.
Still ahead here, flooding also hitting the Bronx. We got the details in just a minute.
Our live team coverage continues through 6:30. Here now is a live look at flooding that's happening in Mamaroneck. You can see there are still issues there. Do stay with CBS 2 News for the very latest. A week after Ophelia, we are still dealing with the remnants. And here's a look at the Bronx River Parkway. Still closed because no traffic happening in either direction. Our team coverage of the storms still ahead, coming up at 6 o'clock. But in the meantime, 2 family dentist practices in Riverdale are completely flooded after this intense rainfall.
CBS 2's Shosh Bedrosian first reported on this story late last week about the ongoing flooding issues they have. They blame the city's poor drainage and recent construction that continues to hurt their bottom line.
It's a scene that brings nothing but discomfort for the employees at 2 family dentist office on Riverdale Avenue.
This is probably the worst that we've had.
But it's a scene that is now too familiar for them as they plan on canceling appointments for the 2nd time this month.
Here we go again. This is happening all the time, and it's really obvious that we can't do business this way.
CBS 2 News saw inches of rain seep into the office as employees rushed to sweep it out. The flooding even lifted the floorboards off the ground. Dr. Jerry Wasserman says within a matter of 30 minutes, their whole courtyard behind their office was consumed with water, with inches of it now inside.
We had 2 major floods, and it's only in the last 3 years that we've had this problem.
They believe they keep getting flooded because of poor drainage and a retaining wall behind their property.
We didn't create this problem. Somebody else did.
The Department of Buildings told CBS 2 News after our first story aired that inspectors went to the site but were unable to determine the cause of the flooding, but that the school drains were DOB-approved plans. But the dentists believe the city isn't taking their time to properly investigate the issue.
We have no place to turn. We're just left in the woods to deal with this.
No one's helping, no one returns calls, no one really seems to care.
Both businesses say they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on repairs from flooding since 2021. They say the lack of support from the city continues to hurt them.
This is going to put us out of business for probably a month or more.
In Riverdale, Shosh Bedrosian, CBS 2 News.
And we continue to ask the Department of Buildings about the ongoing issue and ask them today if they could send out an inspector to see the flooding for themselves today. We are yet to hear back.
We'll stay on it. Thanks for watching the news at 5 on CBS 2 and streaming on CBS News New York. I'm Christine Johnson.
I'm Maurice Dubois. The news at 6 starts right now with Dana Tyler and Dick Brennan.
This is CBS 2 News at 6.
Right now at 6, roads looking like rivers after a barrage of heavy rain throughout the day. New York and New Jersey under states of emergency tonight.
Flooded streets, rushing waters, and rain gear, all common sights today. And the rain will continue to drench much of the tri-state area for hours to come. Good evening, I'm Dana Tyler.
And I'm Dick Brennan. We have team coverage for you right now. CBS 2 crews are in some of the hardest hit areas with a live look at conditions.
First of all, we're going to check with Lonnie Quinn right here. First alert forecast. How much more rain are we going to get, Lonnie?
I think on the high end, you're looking at an additional maybe 2 inches or so for some folks. So it's not going to be as heavy as it was earlier in our day today. And our we were talking about all the reporters fanned out all over the area. I've been riveted to their coverage. It's just really great stuff that all my friends are putting together for you folks at home. So here's our picture right now. We're in Brooklyn, and overhead in Brooklyn, there's a little bit, it's not a bright, clear sky, okay, but it's underway, clearing a little bit. The farther west you go, there's actually some bona fide clearing taking place. But look at where we stand for the month of September after today's rainfall. And these numbers I'm going to show you, off the charts. We are at 14.58 inches for September. That's like 10 inches above where we should be at this time of the year, and that makes us now officially the 2nd wettest September ever. If you look at the rainfall we've picked up, JFK, 8.58 inches of rain, 8.5 inches of rain in a day, right? South Slope, 6.6, Central Park, New Rochelle, 5.8, Great Neck, 6.5. New Jersey totals, while they're not, the same whopping, 6, 7, and 8 inch readings, but look at this. And that's a lot of rain on totally saturated ground. Ramsey, 4.1. Jersey City, 3.5. Tenafly, 2.7. West Caldwell, 3.4. 4.2, Ridgewood 3.1. We showed you this earlier, all right? Georgie put this red line down to show you the two different areas we've got. Clearing skies in portions of western New Jersey, and then we've got some heavy rain out around, say the east portion of Long Island. From Setauket, you go to Smithtown over to Islip. That's that line of real heavy rain. Bigger picture is going to show you we've got more that will cycle in. It can't go anywhere. High pressure blocks it from moving to the east. High pressure blocks it from moving to the west. It just continues to pump in the rain. So I don't believe we're going to be done with this until tomorrow morning. I'm going to talk future numbers for you in just a bit and what to expect. But right now, it's still wet, especially east of New York City for your nighttime. Guys, it's all yours.
All right, Lonnie, thanks very much.
We've been keeping an eye on a lot of places, Brooklyn specifically, Prospect Park all day.
Yep, all the water that's flooded the Parks Lake has been flowing right out. CBS News' Doug Williams has been there all day. Doug, how's it looking now?
Dick and Dana, it's fascinating. We've been here coming up on 7 hours now, and this moving current of lake water has not stopped. It has been doing this for half the day, and people are now getting out of work and kind of showing up and shocked to realize that they can't cross the street. Cars are still having a hard time getting through and into the traffic circle. Prospect Park Lake is 55 acres. It's big and it overflowed. So this is rain and lake water at our feet. And we're going to show you some video just that we've shot throughout the day. Rainwater all the way through the parade grounds here at Prospect Park. Just like we're seeing today, this happened during Hurricane Ida in 2021. This park got 8.8 inches in Hurricane Ida. We're approaching just 7 inches, according to Giorgio and the Weather Center. But this traffic, Parkside Avenue, Prospect Expressway, to and from, it has been consistently busy all day despite this standing water and moving currents. Flooding extends all the way to Coney Island Avenue. We've spoken to several people who live around here. All of them arriving shocked to see that this is still the case, that the water is still moving down the hill. Some said they were watching the news earlier this afternoon, saw that it was raining hard, thought it would have dissipated by now, and it hasn't. And this does happen often here at Prospect Park. We were told by several people that this does often flood when we get heavy rains, but nothing like this. This is the worst anyone has ever seen, at least that I've spoken to who lives around here. So again, it's been dangerous. We've seen bikes and mopeds try to get through, cars try to get through all day. It's just a sign really that this lake continues to overflow and the water continues to splash on down this hill. For now, we're live here in Prospect Park, Brooklyn. Doug Williams, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Doug. Transit has been an issue all day, any type of travel at LaGuardia Airport. Travelers had to wade in water at Terminal A. People waiting to catch flights found themselves walking around in almost ankle-deep water. Spirit and Frontier Airlines operate out of Terminal A. That terminal is now closed. As you might expect, the bad weather caused hundreds of delays and cancellations at all of our area airports.
Call ahead or go online and check.
All of that stuff.
Always a good idea. MTA officials say they're getting service backups and running after some major disruptions.
Yes, that's been going on all day. They gave us an update just a short time ago. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor there joining us live from Grand Central Terminal. Alice, how's the commute?
Well, Dana and Dick, MTA officials say things actually could have been much worse, but they had pump trains positioned so that they could start pumping out all of that water that they knew was going to flood these subway stations. Yesterday, they told us it was just inevitable. They also cleared the drains in preparation for all of this rainwater. You've seen the videos. Perhaps you were in one of the stations. They say that things were the worst in Brooklyn in terms of subway disruptions. On the rails, Metro North was impacted due to flooding in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx, and 34 out of 3,500 buses were stranded today.
Low commuter levels this morning. Of course, it's a post-COVID Friday, which is generally a low commuting day, but the fact that the governor and the MTA were able to alert people was definitely a plus. Listen, we've had as much rain in the 24-hour period. By the end of the 24-hour period, we're projected to have as much rain as we normally get in 2 to 3 months. Metro North, we're standing in historic Grand Central Terminal. We have now been able to restore one of the 3 lines of Metro North. And literally, up on the board in the last couple of minutes have been track assignments for the Hudson line.
Make sure to check your transit apps for the latest on service restoration. They are also cross-honoring. Even better, they say, if you can, stay home. We're live at Grand Central Terminal. Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
Even better, stay home. Good idea. Unless it's too late for you. We hope everyone gets home safely. About 150 of the city's 1,400 schools suffered water damage, and there are questions tonight about whether city officials should have declared a rain day and told kids to stay home. Frustrated parents rushed to IS 28 in Brooklyn this morning after receiving what they call a vague text message saying to pick up the kids early because the school had a, quote, building condition. One parent told CBS 2 there was a flood in the basement. While some lawmakers say parents should have been given more information, officials defended the decision to keep schools open.
Whenever we make a decision to actually close schools, it is a major, major disruption. And so it is really only used as a last resort.
Both the Brooklyn Borough President and public advocate are calling on the mayor to revamp the procedures for notifying New Yorkers about weather emergencies.
Yonkers Mayor Mike Spano has declared a state of emergency. The mayor says the heavy rain is taking a toll on streets in low-lying communities. This video here of the Bronx River Parkway running through parts of Yonkers. Visibility is bad enough. The flooding was a real problem earlier today. And because of the severe weather, Yonkers is suspending alternate side parking through Sunday.
Yonkers got
really
yeah, because I drove around it for about an hour today trying to get to the city.
Way.
Yeah,
yes.
And we see the Bronx River Parkway. It always gets nailed there, but I'm telling you, even today it was even higher than usual. So really tough stuff.
Yeah, got to be careful. Elsewhere in Westchester, residents are worried about the more rain Lonnie's talked about coming tonight.
Yeah, and Tony Aiello, who knows those streets better than anybody, he's been all over, and he's here now with more. Tony, how's it looking now?
Well, Dick and Dana, I got to tell you, more rain, that is a Friday night fright, the thought of more rain. The record rainfall it caused tons of flooding, including on this field behind me. That flooding has finally receded. Earlier, it flooded roads and even schools. Water overwhelmed storm sewers, flowing right into New Rochelle High School. Here's a view through a window into the weight room.
The weight room was flooded. My teacher told us to just pack up and go, and then they told us to hold in place.
The first floor is really bad. Our brand new library, it got flooded again. Up to your knees, the water was really bad in the school. Everyone had to be moved up to the second floor.
Students were released just before noon, some forced to make their way through the flooding.
It was not fun. It was, my shoes are soaked, my feet are soaked.
Countless vehicles stuck, including this van, stranding 2 workers for 2 hours until the boss used his pickup to pull them out.
But I wanted to get it out, pull it out of the water because there are pesticides in here and stuff like that. So we don't want that getting in the water.
What was it like sitting in that van for 2 hours?
Not fun and cold and wet. Cold.
Cold and wet and expensive. They'll be damaging up the total, you have to believe, across Westchester County. It's going to be in the millions of dollars. At New Rochelle High School, they had just finished the cleanup, repairs, and rebuilding after Hurricane Ida rain from 2 years ago. The high school got hit again today. Just a really terrible situation. A rainy day to remember at the end of this September. Live in New Rochelle, Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
You're rhyming, Tony. Amazing. You come up with that at the end. Yes, thanks very much. We want to take you through some of the images sent to our newsroom throughout the day.
We'll take a look right now. This is
Bronxville, yeah.
Yes, police saying about 100 cars totaled because of flooding. You can see in these pictures just how high the water rose across the village this morning. Look at that, almost to the rooftop there. Some cars nearly submerged.
Yeah, that's right off the highway by literally Pondfield Road. Flooding hit parts of Bushwick and Brooklyn. In this video from social media, you can see the water halfway up the wheel of some of the cars. Unbelievable.
All right, this is more video from social media. This is flooding in other parts of Brooklyn. You can see debris, like all kinds of stuff. If there was trash on the street or stuff coming out of cars, just floating down the streets, which are now rivers, through all of that water.
Always dangerous walking through that water. One Brooklyn resident shared this video of the water seeping into his building. You can see the sheen from the water And mop buckets, of course, spread around to try to catch all the dripping.
Especially a pain when that is a sewage issue as well.
Yes.
This is a sea lion at the Central Park Zoo. And of course, happy, able to swim out of her enclosure because of the flooding in the plaza. Zoo staff monitored the seal while she explored the area before going back to the pool. The zoo says no staff or visitors were ever in danger, and the sea lion remained inside the zoo's perimeter.
So somebody was really enjoying the rain.
That's that one person.
We found, unfortunately, it was a steal in the Central Park Zoo. All right, we're in for a long, soggy night here in the city.
We'll be back live with a report in Queens and, of course, Lonnie Quinn with another check of our forecast.
And the ghostly Bronx River Parkway again.
So this storm flooded many streets in our area and caught a lot of drivers off guard. That situation happening in several parts of Queens.
CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram is live in Rosedale, where the water comes up very quickly there. Jennifer.
Hi, Dick and Dana. You know, since our last hit, the water has receded just a little bit, enough for the SUVs and the big trucks to slowly make their way by here. But, you know, the cars are the ones who are getting stuck trying to go further here. So they're kind of making a U-turn and going back the other way. But this is what we've been seeing all day. It was worse earlier. And if you can see right down there, I don't know if Dana can show you, there is a black Mercedes-Benz actually that is stuck over there. We did talk with that guy who says he thought he'd be okay, and then he just hit a spot where his car got submerged and just couldn't move. His car now destroyed. You know, flooded streets are what we've been seeing outside here in Rosedale in Southeast Queens today. But take a look inside of people's homes and what the rain did to their homes inside. Take a look at some homes on 222nd Street in Springfield Gardens. That is one town over from here, about a quarter a mile away, where we found several homes flooded, basements, people actually taking garden hoses just to pump the water out of their homes. And they say this is something they have been dealing with for quite some time. They are tired of it, but it's pretty much like the norm for them now. Back outside here with the guy who I told you about, whose Mercedes-Benz got stuck. We talked to him when he came back. He called the tow truck to try to get his car towed. Take a listen. Has this ever happened to you before?
This is actually my first time. I've driven through like higher waters in this, I mean nothing but this weather's unpredictable. It's crazy.
When did you realize, oh my God, that I'm stuck?
It just shut off. It just went off. That's it. I was like, oh dang, and I got out.
Now what? Like, what are you gonna do now?
I have to call my insurance and see where it goes from there.
Another live look at where we are at this hour. As we mentioned, the water has receded just a little bit here, but this is pretty much what we've been seeing throughout Southeast Queens here today. Again, you know, officials have been telling you if you see the water like that, do not go into it because your car may get stuck. You may get submerged. Those homeowners that we talked with earlier, whose homes are damaged, they're also the ones just basically having now to buy new clothes, buy new furniture, and buy new food. But that is the latest here. Rosedale, Queens. Jennifer Bisram, CBS 2 News.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And it doesn't take much water, as Jennifer, you can see that shot. It just halfway up the tires, and you could be totally out of luck. So you got to be really careful. Thanks, Jennifer. We appreciate it. Yeah.
More new video into our newsroom. This is video from our crew in Mamaroneck in Westchester. A woman was rescued from the floodwaters in what looks like, well, I guess you could call that a front-end loader, and that just tells you how difficult rescues are because of heavy flooding in Mamaroneck all day. We'll have a closer look on CBS 2 News at 11. And important to say also, Dick, Christina Marie spoke with Mayor Adams about an hour ago, live on CBS 2, and he made a point of saying there have been no serious injuries and no deaths.
Yeah.
We can only hope that is still the same, and it stays that way.
Absolutely, and we certainly appreciate people out there working like that. The guys on the front end loaders.
They're always
we were all over Yonkers today. The Yonkers PD was everywhere, so we really appreciate those men and women who are out there getting soaked and keeping us all safe.
Lonnie Quinn is back. Let's take a look at how are we doing? I see the raindrop spots.
Yep, there are some raindrop spots out there, you betcha. But overall, it's a much better picture than what we had earlier. If you go well east of New York City, that's where we have some problems out there right now. That picture, it's not great, but the farther west you go, we're actually seeing some clearing in some of our western suburbs. All right, let's get right to it. There's your current temperature reading, 63 degrees. Look at that bright maroon color. All right, now we did have this in effect for Nassau County, but it's now been just limited now into Suffolk County. That's the most important thing on this map. That is a flash flood warning, and wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where we find the heaviest rain right over Suffolk County. It stretches down towards the Jersey Shore, but for the most part, the Jersey Shore, you're drying out. Maybe a couple of little showers onshore, but the heavier rain is offshore, and the heavy rain then pushes up to, say, New Haven, Connecticut. But look at the sort of the wraparound in portions of Fairfield County inland, like Danbury, Connecticut. You've got a pretty decent swath on top of you, but it's really from Rocky Point over towards Smithtown, cutting across. There's the LIE going over towards Islip, Fire Island. That's the heaviest rain as of right now. But I want to make this point to everybody. It is pushing off to the east, but it's not going to be a repeat performance of what you had earlier today with the worst of it. It's still heavy, right? I mean, especially for the east portion, for the eastern area of Long Island. But it's still not going to be a repeat performance of the crazy weather, the real crazy rain that was coming down early in our day today. So take a look at this map, all right? These red arrows sort of show you where the end of the cloud cover is. So portions of our area are actually breaking into some clearing skies right now. But this is also, you know, I used this visual earlier, like when you have a high pressure hose and you turn it on and that hose is just going all over the place. Well, this is a hose, right? But it's not able to go all over the place because you have a high pressure to our west blocking it, high pressure to our east. So you get this channel of consistent rain that just keeps coming down, coming down, coming down. There's a slow progression to the east, but you see this flow coming in from the water, kind of pushing it and not allowing it to make a real quick exit. So take a look at how we see things working out. Here we are, 8 p.m. Heaviest rain well east of New York City. There's Southampton pushing out towards Montauk. There's the North Fork. And you look at 10 p.m., it looks like we're just about basically done with it. All the models are indicating it is going to make a little sort of a loop-to-loop and come back to the area. Not 4:30, but give it a little bit more time. We do see it coming back. So consequently, your numbers look like this. 1.6 for Riverhead, maybe 2 inches more for Montauk. Small numbers as you go to the west. The HER is saying, hey, the biggest number, 2.1 for Bridgeport, 1.4 in Brentwood. Again, smaller numbers to the west. And the European, 0 for Monticello, a 0.1 in Morristown, and the biggest number they're projecting is a 2.4 for New Haven. So this has been quite the day. It does continue, at least into portions of your day tomorrow, for a wet morning, but it improves as you push along, and Sunday looks to be a great day. Not only is Sunday is a great day, but I think all of next week, for the most part, Thursday and Friday, a few more clouds, maybe a little rain chance. Next week looks to be a very nice fall week.
Lonnie, drivers want to know this. You and I want to know this because we got stuck today. How quickly does water dissipate off the highway once the rain stops?
You're right. This is not like a high tide coming in and a high tide going out. If you remember with freshwater flooding, when you go back to Ida, right, which is pretty much for our freshwater flooding, that and Irene were the real monikers of a big flooding event like that. If you recall, with Ida, by the following morning, the water was all gone. The cars were still stranded in the middle of the major Deegan, right? But the water was gone. We should be much better by the time we venture into the morning hours.
Okay, the tide, it recedes. So
it does. It's not like a tide coming in and going out, but it's going to get better. Okay, the problem this time, though, Dick, is your ground is more saturated.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Lonnie.
We want to show you some more images you, our viewers, have sent us throughout the day. Take a look at this in Prospect Heights. Gosh, a large tree fell on the car. This uprooted tree, look at that. It even crossed the street, sidewalk. Just a mess. The branches also hit parked cars on the other side and left branches and debris just all over the place.
And this is what it looked like today in Central Park. New York City Office of Emergency Management told CBS 2 earlier this morning that today is the wettest day in Central Park since the remnants of Hurricane Ida that Lonnie was just talking about roll through.
All right, we're going to check in on the flooding in New Jersey after the break. Please stay with us. The torrential rains today triggered flooding all over the area, including in New Jersey.
CBS 2's Christine Sloan is live in Hoboken, where there was a lot of water. Christine.
Dick and Dana, the good news is some of the water is receding, but the problem's so bad earlier, the governor of New Jersey declared a state of emergency in the state, mainly because of scenes like this behind me. Trucks trapped in rising waters on Monroe Street in Hoboken. On 9th, the roadway flooded with water inching into several parked cars. One of the cars belongs to this woman who didn't want to be identified.
It's stuck there. Yeah, it's not moving anywhere anytime soon. We're going to get it towed. We're working on that.
Across the street, this driver trapped on a closed road, unable to get out, driving down a one-way street.
I'd rather break the law, move this barricade, and get out safely than to completely destroy my car driving through that.
A combination of heavy rainfall at high tide at about 9:51 and a lot of rainfall during the morning rush. That resulted in a good portion of Hoboken, specifically the southwest portion, to be inundated with floodwaters. And we're really cautioning and urging residents to not drive, not go outside unless it's for some essential purpose, and be safe.
An employee of this preschool and daycare trying to keep water from coming in as parents drop by to pull their children out.
Slightly concerned because they were going to close early today to make sure that the flooding didn't get inside or anything else, but all is well though.
Mayor of Hoboken says if you see a flooded street, don't drive through it. I'm Christine Sloan in Hoboken. We'll be right back.
Until what? I'm probably gonna go, not right now, but uh, maybe at the 2 hour mark. I don't know yet. What audio? We talk about my stream. Well, I do have this new thing I'm gonna be testing out. It's kind of like StreamYards. I can't remember the name of it, but it's there's so many other features on it that I like. So I'll be testing that one maybe tomorrow. I'm just too exhausted to do it today. So well, that's just the message to me that they use.
Right now at 6, roads looking like rivers after a barrage of heavy rain throughout the day. New York and New Jersey under states of emergency tonight.
Flooded streets, rushing waters, and rain gear, all common sights today. And the rain will continue to drench much of the tri-state area for hours to come. Good evening, I'm Dana Tyler.
And I'm Dick Brennan. We have
I'll
team
be
coverage for you
testing
right
that
now.
other
CBS 2
thing
crews are in some
tomorrow.
of the
It's kind of
hardest
like
areas with
StreamYards,
a
but
live
it's
look at
different.
conditions.
First of all, we're going to check with Lonnie Quinn right here. First alert forecast. How much more rain are we going to get, Lonnie?
I think on the high end, you're looking at an additional maybe 2 inches or so for some folks. So it's not going to be as heavy as it was earlier in our day today. And we were all the reporters fanned out all over the area. I've been riveted to their coverage. It's just really great stuff that all my friends are putting together for you folks at home. So here's our picture right now. We're in Brooklyn, and overhead in Brooklyn, there's a little bit. It's not a bright, clear sky, okay, but it's.
Well, I think I'm gonna cut it here, bro.
West you go, there's actually some bona fide
I'm
clearing
off,
taking
dude.
place.
I want to
But
get.
look
I
at where we
gotta
stand
get
for the
other
month of
stuff
September
done.
after today's rainfall. And these numbers are
And
going to
I
show you
gotta make
off the
dinner.
charts.
So
We are at 14.58 inches for September. That's like 10 inches above where we should be at this time of the year, and that makes us now officially the second wettest.
So yeah, thanks for coming, brother, as always. I may go live tomorrow to test out that new thing to see if I like it or not. And please like and subscribe, comment on this stream if you want. If you have any questions about the flooding, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Please like and subscribe and comment. Trying to get up to 500. So, I'm not telling you you have to subscribe, but if you want to, you can. Please like the stream. Share it out to if you have anyone that lives in New York. And also those in New York, please be safe. I know it's bad there. I've been through flooded waters before and not fun. Hope everyone in New York makes it out just fine. And and talk to y'all later. Have a good evening. Be safe. All that good stuff. And I may go night tomorrow. Depends. Don't know what time. Just look out for the scheduled stream. And yeah. See y'all later. Oh, y'all.